salivating like a drug dealer. Then we give them money and we say, hey, Sheriff, how about if we have shared authority? We'll let you wear a shiny little FBI badge if you let us wear the sheriff badge. You ever think that's a good idea?
No.
Absolutely not. I've got if any of you are friends on my Facebook page, I've got a little video on there of something that happened in Grand Rapids. Kid was coming home from one of his 2 jobs that he had while he was at Grand Valley State. Walking down the sidewalk, and 2 guys in regular clothes said, hey, what's your name? He said, James. They shoved him up against an SUV, reached in his pocket and pulled his wallet out. He thought he was being mugged. So he fought his way away from them and started running. They tackled him and beat the living crap out of him. Because when the one cop had him around the throat, he bit his arm. You don't do that and walk away without having extensive head and upper body injuries. They beat the living crud out of him, put him in the hospital. They're still fighting it because it's going to the Supreme Court the 2nd time to see if the Supreme Court will take it, because you can't sue federal officers. But one of them was a Grand Rapids cop. But we can't sue him. Why? Because of that shared authority. He was on a federal task force as an FBI agent.
So the courts have no jurisdiction on it then?
Nope. So they can't get them for any state constitution violations because they were federal officers now. You see how bad this is? Not a good idea. But you go to these county commissioners and everybody's going to go, oh, take the grant, we need the money, take the grant. See how that's a carrot on a stick? To get the people to willingly give up their power? See, power can't be taken, it has to be given up. Even Napoleon Bonaparte knew that. He said, I can't take a country that its people don't want to be taken. Because you cannot take power. It must be given. My kids used to come home and say, oh, so-and-so called me a name. Well, why are you crying? Because he called me a name. Why'd you give your power up to them? Well, I didn't. Yeah, you did. If you're going to allow them to make you feel bad, you gave your power to them. Stop it. Don't give your power up. I decide whether I'm happy or sad. I don't care what your opinion is. If that hurts your feelings, then you just gave your power to me. Right? People go, oh, you're so mean. No, I just don't give my power up easily. Because I know once I give it up, the only way I get it back is for what? You have to give it back to me. Because I can't take power. So do you understand why it's so wrong to give power to the federal government, to give power to the President of the United States? Because you're not giving it to the individual, you're giving it to the office. And once you give that power to that office, and you decide that was a bad idea, what do you need to do to get it back? You have to wait till they're willing to give it up. And have you ever met a politician ever that was willing to give up any power? Absolutely not. It's not in their vocabulary. So the best thing to do is stop giving power up. Period. That was our mistake. That's how we got the 16th and 17th Amendment. Those have been 2 horrible amendments. The regulation of commerce, it is true, is a new power. But that seems to be an addition which few oppose and from which no apprehensions are entertained. The reason why is because they had problems under the Confederacy, right? You'd have one state come up with a rule that wasn't the same as another state. You'd have money in one state that didn't work in another state, so you had to have that state's money. So this is where they're supposed to regulate commerce. Powers relating to war and peace, armies and fleets, treaties and finance, with the other more considerable powers, are all vested in the existing Congress of the Articles of Confederation. The proposed change does not enlarge these powers. It only substitutes a more effectual mode of administering them. The change relating to taxation may be regarded as the most important, and yet the present Congress has complete authority to require of the states indefinite supplies of money for the common defense and general welfare, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. As the future Congress will have to require them of individual citizens, as the latter will be no more bound than the states themselves have been to pay the quotas respectively taxed on them. Had the states complied punctually with the Articles of Confederation, or could their compliance have been enforced by as peaceable means as may be used with the success towards single persons, our past experience is very far from countenancing an opinion that the state governments would have lost their constitutional powers and have gradually undergone an entire consolidation. To maintain that such an event would have ensued would be to say at once that the existence of the state governments is incompatible with any system whatever that accomplishes the essential purposes of the Union. Remember, it is always, always, always about maintaining the Union. So how do you think we would have maintained the Union if the states would have retained the powers of war, of peace, of negotiation, and foreign commerce? That means Indiana could have a treaty with Russia or with Iran. And Michigan could go, well, we want a treaty with Iraq. Well, how do you think that would have worked during the Iran-Iraq war? Not so well. And if Michigan could declare war on Ohio because they wanted that little strip of land from Toledo all the way over here to Indiana, we would have had a war. Oh, we almost did. We almost violated the Constitution. Anybody ever hear of the Toledo War? That's how we got the Upper Peninsula, or the UP, as the Upers call it. Eh? That's right. What's that all about? That's how they talk up there, like Canadians. But we didn't have the Upper Peninsula. We had Toledo, and we wanted to keep that port, but Ohio didn't have a port. They didn't have a way to get their goods and services out and out through the St. Lawrence Seaway and out to the ocean. They wanted that. There was almost a war over it. Finally, what the negotiation was, hey, you guys haven't let them have that little strip of land. That's why Michigan does this, right at Indiana. You guys let them have that little strip of land, and we'll give you the Upper Peninsula. And at first we went, what a boon to our economy, the Upper Peninsula. We had copper, iron ore, we had timber, we had all kinds of stuff that made Michigan a strong, booming economy during that time.
Salt, iron.
Yeah, salt, iron, absolutely. We wouldn't have had that without the Upper Peninsula, without those Upers. Eh? So, what do you think if they hadn't have given those, if they hadn't have delegated that power of war to the federal government, what do you think would have happened? Well, there would have been a war with Ohio, we wouldn't have got the Upper Peninsula, and we would have denigrated to the city-states of Europe. It would have put the Union in danger of dissolving and splitting up. That's what Lincoln saw was the danger in 1861. All right, when the southern states wanted to pull out of the Union and go back to the Articles of Confederation, that's why we were the Union Army and they were the Confederate Army. You start talking about the Articles of Confederation, and kids today go, Confederate, if they even know what the Civil War was, they go, oh, well, that was the Southern Army, that Confederates, right? They don't even realize we started out as Confederates. We all started out as under the Articles of Confederation. Thank you, John Dewey. This is why you need to teach your kids at home. Sorry, but you just do. You got to stop using the state as a babysitter, because all they are is an indoctrination camp, period. And again, it ends signed Publius. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms? Go ahead, criticize me. I worked in the prison 8 years. I had 3 daughters. I don't have a feeling left. You can't hurt it. You can criticize all you want.
I think somebody's got 7 daughters.
What an iron constitution that must be. Not only does he not have any feelings left, but shortly he won't have any money left. Yeah, I always tell people don't have them girl babies. They're expensive.
Aren't you glad we don't do endowments anymore?
What's that?
Aren't you glad we don't do endowments anymore?
Oh, yeah. Woo! Man, you better own some acreage. And lots of cows, or sheep, or something. You gotta have a herd for each one. So, all right. With that being said, next week we will be on Federalist 51. Now remember, Federalist 10 and Federalist 51.
49.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 49. I went to public school. 4 to 9 is 49, not 51. So, but 49 takes us a little further. No, there's 85 Federalist Papers. I have only picked 10. And the only reason I picked these 10 is because these 10 have a tendency to highlight that 700 years of history and that early American history and the speeches by our founders. But there is a myriad of information in those other 75 Federalist Papers. I would highly encourage you to read them. Remember, this 28-week course is just the tip of the iceberg. It's just an introduction to the Constitution. It's by no means a PhD level. This is ninth grade Constitution, 9th grade. All right, you all have a good night. Be careful on the way home. Thank you.
Turn your phone back.
Oh yes, turn your phasers to kill. We come in peace.